will find my way back to her.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the channel today for a very special interview. I'm here with the director and producer of the new film, The Shift, which is going to be in theaters December 1st. Brock, how are you doing today? Congratulations on this film. I thoroughly love this film. It's one of those type of films where it may not have been on my radar, but I'm truly glad and very much appreciate the opportunity to check it out and to talk about it with you here today. But nonetheless, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good, Nadir, and that's great to hear. This has been a long gestating project. It's been 8 years bringing it to screen, and we just barely finished it 2 weeks ago. So
Wow.
to hear a reaction like that is hugely comforting, as you could imagine.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, that's my job here, you know, in terms of being a critic, is to watch film, get folks to talk about it. And I definitely want to start by saying, wow, again, it may not have been on your radar. You totally want to go out the way to check out this film. I think no matter where you're at in life, I think to take just a little over an hour, close to 2 hours, hour and 55 minutes of your
It's under
life
2 hours, yeah.
yeah, under 2 hours. That's why I was going at there. To watch this film and just the vast amount of messages that you get from in it, but then the encouragement, the motivation, there's a ton of words I can list here that you get from coming from out of it. I think it sends you on a different path. I don't know how my day was going before I watched it, but I know afterwards I got up and I was like, I need to do something beneficial today. I need to do something productive. So with a film that tells a good story in its own, but also tells a lot of good messages, how did you what was the approach here working with your team? Obviously you wrote, produced, and directed this, but coming together with your team here, what was the approach to give us all of that in just under 2 hours?
It was a heck of a thing. Look, put any movie coming out is a miracle, and to get it under 2 hours was not a small task. The original cut of this came in at 2.5, so
yeah,
we've done a lot of cutting and culling, and look, I love that you mentioned my team, because the team behind this really was top notch across the board. I made a real effort to hire people who were better and smarter than me and had more experience. And that really resulted, as much as anything else, contributed to the result that you've seen now. We have such an incredible cast: Neil McDonough, Elizabeth Tavish, Chris Palaha, Sean Astin, John Billingsley. I could keep going. I mean, there's so many great. Paris Patel, Jordan Alexandra. But then, you know, our crew, producer Ken Carpenter, he's somebody who has done many films. This was my first film as a writer director, and so he was somebody who was really instrumental in just making sure that we hired the right team that could come around this film. Because look, I mean, you've seen it. It's a little different. It's a little bit more challenging. I love that you said there's so many messages. And, you know, another way of saying that, because I don't want people to think, oh, I don't necessarily want to go in and take my medicine. You know, if it's just about a bunch of messages, then, you know, that's not really for me. I want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we really put entertainment first on this. So I love, though, that I call them takeaways. You had so many takeaways from the film, you know, so many different things that you were able to key in on, that you didn't even name any of them yet, because there's so many. And that was really what I was hoping for. Those are the movies that I love the most, you know, the ones that you can kind of pick apart and look at it from different angles. And there's more than just one idea at play. That's exciting to me. So I love that was what you came out with. That's fantastic.
No doubt, no doubt. And, you know, you highlighted your cast and other folks. I definitely want to talk about your composer, because I thought the score was just so good.
Isn't it
in this
amazing?
as well. Amazing.
It's so good. It's so good. Those guys, and I can freely say it because I have not a musical bone in my body. So it's just pure pleasure for me. To Dan Hasseltine and Matt Nelson, they're the two guys that are behind the score for The Chosen as well. Not that you would ever know it by listening to this score, because this score is completely different from anything they've done before. But the music really just takes this whole thing to another level. I'm so grateful for them.
Absolutely. So we go on this journey with Kevin, who's played by, as you mentioned, Christopher, who just, I think, just the different I don't want to say different characters, but the different trials and tribulations with this character throughout the films has him wearing, as I was going to allude to, different characters, but just gives us just a vast array of emotions and so many relatable moments within everything that's happening. As your lead here, because without his work, a lot of the film just doesn't work. I mean, granted, Neil, you put him in any role, he's going to shine. But Christopher comes in and just really carries this film. You feel what he's feeling, you're thinking what he's thinking, you're rooting for this guy, you're on this journey of a sort of self-discovery. But the biggest thing that should be talked about in this film is the battle of faith, staying strong in your faith. You go throughout this entire journey with him. Talk to me about casting him, knowing he was right for the role, and just other conversations you had throughout this process with him.
Yeah, so Chris is somebody whose work I wasn't overly familiar with before we cast him in this role. He was somebody I had noticed on one of my favorite shows of all time, Mad Men. He had a recurring role on that show, and he was great every time he came on. I was somebody I was excited by, but I hadn't realized how much else he had done since then. And and I'll be honest, like we struggled casting this part. It is a very demanding role. He's in every single scene. Yeah. And that meant every day on set, no actor was going to be able to step into this and just relax. Like it's a lift, and a lot of the movie he's running. So it wasn't an easy part. Chris, it was when I saw his work in a movie called Run the Race, which is a movie he did with my producer, Ken Carpenter. And he was playing this kind of like drunk father. And he was having this confrontation, not really confrontation, this sit down with his boys where they really call him out on his behavior. And there were just little things that Chris was doing that I knew. I mean, I hadn't read the script, but I just knew weren't in the script. Just little additions he was making. And I realized here is an actor who's so present in the scene. And he was able to add these little nuances. And I thought that's the guy that I need. I knew watching that scene that he was the guy I needed for this movie, because I really wanted a true partner in this film. I wanted somebody who could come in with their own ideas, their own thing, and really make this part their own. And then once Chris and I met, we gelled immediately. And he's become a friend and a true partner on this film. I mean, this could have gone very badly with an actor in that many scenes. This could have gone very badly, but there is no one who could have played this part better than Chris. I'm just so glad we got him, and I'm excited for people to see this film, because whether you're familiar with him or not, you're going to see somebody that I think is a really exciting talent. And if you are familiar with him, you're going to see him in a completely different light. I look forward to seeing where his career goes from here, because I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
I said the same thing in my review, and it's funny because he has such an impressive resume, and it's like this performance alone is like, I think he's just getting started. Like, he really showed something in this. And again, no bias, but I'm a huge Neil fan. And I think Neil, you put him in any role, he shines.
Oh yeah.
But like the two of them gets each other, plus the duality of the story with the two of them.
Yeah.
How lucky are you?
Oh no, I mean it's funny because it's not like they're having a romantic relationship in this movie, obviously, but their chemistry is off the charts. Like these two guys on screen, they just gelled so well together. And if I can be so bold as to say, and I'm totally biased and I recognize that, I've seen Neil in a lot of stuff. We all have. Neil's turned in one great performance after another in very high profile projects. I think this is his best work. I really do. Like I think what he does is so impressive and so much more nuanced and interesting than what you think it's going to be. If you know anything about Neil's character going into the film, I promise you he's going to surprise you. He's putting stuff, he does things in this role that I swear the last thing you think you're going to see if you know who the character is and what he's all about.
Yeah, no doubt. And I agree. I think Neil's been attached to major projects, and the fact that he takes an independent film and he approaches it as if it's the biggest deal ever just shows you how much he cares about cinema, but just how good he is. He comes into this, and I agree. I think he put on one of his best performances of all time here with that. And I just couldn't imagine how lucky of a guy you are to have your two leads right there, bringing it at 110%. But and again, this is why I focused on the messages earlier, because like you start getting into the performance and all of the contributions in terms of the production. Without a doubt, you have a very, very good film. But then you start to dig into the messages here, and there was a lot of times that upon watching this film that I did, you know, folks, you'll have the luxury of checking out in theaters, which you should see it on the biggest screen.
Yes,
I was
please.
provided a screener, so I had a little bit of an advantage to pause at times, because there was moments where I was like, I need to understand what I'm feeling here, what I'm sensing here. Also, what's happening with the story too, because there's a lot of discovery with the characters, and not to give anything away. I'm curious about the writing process here. When you had your first draft and you came back with your second draft, were you removing? Were you adding? How did you make all of the scenes intentional? I literally was trying to nitpick and say, there has to be something in here that just doesn't fit or doesn't work. It was just fleshed out so good. So I'm just curious about the writing process here. How did you kind of approach it to make each of these scenes intentional, one after another, even calling back the previous scene so that even makes more sense? Like, there was a lot of that going on.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, there's two things I did in the writing that I was really intentional about, which is I wanted, number one, I wanted it to be rewarding in terms of the setups and the payoffs, that things that would make no sense early on would definitely, by the time you got to the end, would come together. And then number two, I wanted a movie that could be rewatched, that would reward rewatching, which means that if you do watch it again, you are going to pick up on some new stuff. And there have been a few people who have even been able to watch it more than once, even before it's been released, and they report back that that's the experience that they're having. So, you know, when it came to writing this thing, it was really just about, I approached this whole thing as just wanting to make a movie that I want to see, that I've never seen before. And as a sci-fi fan from all the way back in childhood, when my dad came home very excited one night, tell me about this movie whose title I did not understand, and pulled me to the theaters to go see Brocky. He says, Brock, you got to come with me. You got to see Back to the Future, you know? And I mean, like, that's, you know, I'm 8 years old. I'm watching Back to the Future. I don't understand what I'm seeing, but I know I love it. All the way from that to now, sci-fi has always been my favorite genre. But then my faith is something that's also really, really important to me. And it's something that is very much a part of my life. And I've never really seen these two loves in my life intersect. And so this film was about, if I'm going to write a movie, if I'm going to make a movie, then this is the kind of movie I want to make. I want to make something, number one, I want to make something I don't think anybody's ever done before. And number two, I want to make something that's important to me. So that's what this film is. And if it's unique in any way, you know, and if it feels like a new experience, I think it's just because of that, because I am just trying to take some things that aren't usually combined, but why not? You know, sci-fi is such a great vehicle for exploring ideas and social issues. Think about Star Trek and the way Star Trek is, you know, tackles the social issues of the day and tackles any idea at once. Well, why not? Why not faith? Why can't we talk about faith within this sci-fi construct? And how comfortable is that? Because, you know, sometimes with other people's expressions of faith and the stories they tell, sometimes it can be worrisome from people, because they're worried, oh, are they proposing a new theology here? Is this going against what I believe? And by doing sci-fi, we're saying, don't worry about it. It's sci-fi. You know, we're not proposing a new theology here. We're not trying to say this is the way things work. We've taken a construct, and then we're professing truth and principles within that construct, but we're not saying the construct is true any more than people go to NASA and are disappointed that they don't have the Millennium Falcon. You know, we all understand the Millennium Falcon is not housed at NASA, that's not how rockets work. So I hope people are open-minded going in, and I hope they're excited by what we've done. I feel like we found a new path in to talk about some of the things that are really important to us who have a faith. Yeah,
beautifully said. One of my favorite moments very early in the film is Neil's character talking about choice. And with the vast popularity of the multiverse done in so many different genres, so many different mediums, I love how this one feels more home, because we talk about choice, and as he mentioned, and he said choice is how every choice you make, there's countless other realities where you make a different choice that breeds infinite possibilities and realities. And that's the first time I paused and I said, wait a minute now. I've never thought about it in that perspective, because you kind of exist in your own space. But I
Yeah.
think that is something that at times keep people kind of eyes open when they probably should be resting, just thinking about how we, if you have made a better choice, you know, what the
Mm-hmm.
decision could have made. And by the end of the story, there's a very selfless decision made.
Mm-hmm.
And then considering, what would you do if you was in that scenario? So I'm kind of wondering for you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
having that line and creating that reality about the how choice can, you know, sway you in different directions, as they mentioned, infinite possibilities and reality. What did it mean to you upon writing that and having that a part of the script?
Yeah, so this idea of choice and the choice breeding realities, this gets into string theory and multiverse theory and all that stuff, and you'll find scientific papers on it. And obviously, I did a little bit of research into it to try to figure out how it works and understand it. And the basic idea is that every choice we make, there is another reality where the different choice is made. That there's people who believe that this is a theory that is real. I have no idea. I don't know if that's real or not. I don't
Yeah.
really care. I think it's really interesting as a story construct. And I think it taps into something that we all think about, which is we all think back on our lives and we think about the decisions that we've made, and we all wonder, well, what if I had gone a different way?
Yeah.
And there are decisions I can look back on and I can say, man, if I'd gone a different way, that would have made my life a lot worse. For example,
Yep.
just a small one for me, there was a point in my life, which we all get to this point, after high school, I'm trying to figure out, do I want to go to college? Where do I go to college? And I had two
Yep.
choices before me, and one was going to take me far away from home and was exciting, and one was real close by. I chose
Yep.
the real close by option, and thank
Yep.
goodness I did, because the first day of college, I met my wife.
Mm.
And had I not done that, I never would have met her. Our kids wouldn't exist, And so we all think
Yeah.
about these things. We think about the paths not taken. And the shift is just taking place in a world in which we're saying, you know what, all those paths, they were taken. They were taken by somebody else. And what if somebody with malintent, what if they could move us between those realities and mess with our heads like that? What if that could happen? And
Mm.
so I think it's something everybody thinks about, and we're just putting it on screen in a different way.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah. I'm still trying to dance around particulars in that, but I fully I fully agree, and definitely some of the thought processes I had myself. There is a measure of good versus evil in this film, and I also would throw in consciousness. And I
Mhm.
think whether you are one within the faith or religious or not, a lot, and this is again why I love the script, is because everybody can take something from it. You don't have to be overly religious, you don't have
No,
to
not at
be
all.
spiritual of anything. There
Yeah.
is very realistic ramifications that you can correlate your life to upon watching this film. And there's so many metaphorical moments or just reflective moments of teaching within this film as well too. um when you decided to sort of create an audience for this film, what was sort of in mind with your approach?
I'll tell you, the answer to that is really not exciting. I had no idea when I first created this. This started off with a short film that I made with $500. That was all the money I had in the whole world at the time, because I'd been out of work for over a year. And so I got some volunteers and some friends who were talented, and they helped me make this short film. And this short film, it's about 20 minutes, and it's largely takes from the first act of what the feature film ended up being. But it was one of those things where I didn't know what in the world it was going to be, and how, like, it was something that was really, it was a mystery even to me, like what it was going to be. And thankfully it all came together in the end. But it was one of those things that kind of evolved over time. I'm not sure if I totally answered your question there.
No, you're on it, you're on it.
Yeah.
And to kind of as you said, as you being a man of faith, at what moments through this process did you feel like you were there was a higher calling and you were just a vessel to tell the story? At what point did you realize that it just wasn't about you?
Yeah, that's a big part of this for me, for sure. I think it was the moment just before I got the call from Angel Studios, say, hey, we want to meet with you and talk about what this could be. I started to get an inkling that there was more to this story than what I had shown in the
Mm.
short film. And I had started the ideas had started formulating. I'd had this document on my computer where I would just jot down notes. And probably for about 2 years, I would just, anytime I got an idea, I just jot down a note. By the time I talked to them, I had a pretty good idea of how to turn this into a feature film. And it was about that when I looked at this giant document I had and looked at all these notes, and I realized, man, there is beat for beat a really solid movie here. That was about the time that I thought to myself, oh goodness, this is something I think I have to see through all the way to the end. I think this is what I'm actually supposed to do. And thank goodness I had that feeling, because that carried me through some really difficult times. That was when I first talked to Angel Studios. Between then and right now is about 5 years. So that's a long time. It's a long time to carry a ball and have a lot of doubters and a lot of people telling you it's not going to work. And holding fast anyway.
Yeah. A lot of what you said is a lot of Kevin's story here.
Yeah,
the
it is.
Impossible journey, you know, the journey of just give it up, or you'll never find her, or you'll never complete this film, you know.
Right.
It was lucky that you got to this point, you know, but would you get lucky again and actually have a release date? All those sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And for that, as I mentioned, congratulations on this film. You've done it. And this is going to reach and touch a lot of folks. I still feel very lifted from this film. And awesome. As I said, encouraged and motivated to go do some good in the world. What's for my last two questions here? Another very, very, very unique thing. I'm telling you right now, I've never seen this, and you better be vocal if anybody attempts to do this. The timer do the credits that lets you know that a stinger was coming, because you know that's the whole thing with cinema nowadays. You know, it started with Marvel, sure, but now everybody, it didn't start with Marvel, but it became popular with Marvel. But you know, folks are like, are we going to get an end credit scene? And it's the unpredictability. But the fact that you said you're definitely getting one. Here's your timer. Stay.
This is when it's coming, right?
Here's when it's coming. I love that. Yeah. But then the message, and I don't want to give it away, but just building that and the message within the scene here, and then the engagement with folks beyond that, as I'm still dancing around things, is genius. Talk to me about that. How important was it for you to do that? And I'm kind of curious about the reaction of others when you say, I got this plan, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, that was very much a studio-driven thing. And I don't think we have to dance around it too much. At the end of the film, our lead actor comes on and talks about how you can pay it forward. You can essentially pay it forward, meaning that there is a spot online, and actually you can go to it right now. It's angel.com/share-the-shift, where you can actually pay for somebody else's ticket. So somebody who doesn't have a lot of means, and somebody who you think could be benefited by watching this movie, you can pay for their ticket ahead of time, and they can go to that same site and they can claim that free ticket, what is free to them. And so Chris just gets on and he just talks about, Chris, our lead actor, gets on and talks about, the film and about kind of what it's expressing, which we won't get into too deep because I think it's better seen and then understood at that point. But yeah, it's this really great thing that Angel Studios does that they came up with, where, you know, they recognize the value of art and stories that amplify light. That's what they're all about. And so, yes, this is obviously a for-profit venture. We've invested a lot of time and money into this. We have families to feed. We're hoping to make some money so that we can continue to do that. We continue to make great art. But it's not just about that. It's also about how can society, how can culture, how can people as individuals benefit from these stories. Those are the kinds of stories that Angel Studios wants to tell. Those are the kind of stories that I want to tell. I'm not just there to entertain people. I think that's job one. But job two is enrich them in some way. Because if we're not doing that, then what in the world are we doing? And so this pay it forward is such a great way that you can participate in that anybody can participate in that, whether they're receiving a free ticket or they're giving them away. Angel Studios has provided a means for people to do that.
Beautiful. And that will be in the description below, folks. Brock, I do want you to have a moment and just receive your flowers and the success of this film to this point. But I do have to ask, what is it that you may possibly be working on next? Where does your journey in filmmaking go from here?
So I am definitely excited to keep going. I had a little bit of a downtime about a year and a half ago where I was waiting for the shift to spool up, and I went ahead and wrote another script. This script is also sci-fi and also doesn't shy away from faith, but it does it in a completely different way from the shift. It's a story I'm really, really excited about. And hopefully this film is successful and I get the chance to tell that story too.
All right. Well, folks, in order to elevate the levels of success here already from what it is, you got to get to theaters December 1st, The Shift. Check it out. You be sure to tell others the website below for you to pay it forward. And Brock, it's been a tremendous pleasure to talk to you about it today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the film. Thank you so much for the stories, the messages, and everything within the film. And I'm definitely looking forward for your next project.
Oh, thank you so much, Najir. I really appreciate that. And if people want to see where The Shift is playing near them, they can go to angel.com/The Shift, which is a separate site. But they'll see where it's playing locally for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, man.
All right, I think they'll get a cut there. Thank you so much. And I will report back to your team once they send this to me, and then get approval, and then we'll get that posted.
Great. Awesome, man. I appreciate it. It was a good conversation. Thank you for the enthusiasm for the film. It really, really means a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, buddy. You take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.